Welcome to Future Now. My guest today is Olivier Crespin, co-founder and chief executive officer of Zand, the region's first fully digital bank that combines both retail and corporate banking. Olivier has over 20 years of leadership in Fintech across Latin America, the US, and Asia, and his efforts have been focused on implementing a more customer-centric, humanized approach to the banking industry. Olivier, it's such a pleasure to have you with me here on Future Now. Thank you for joining us.
The pleasure is mine, Ihsan. It's really great to be here with you.
Thank you. Maybe we'll start, Olivier, by just, first of all, getting to know you a bit more, talking a bit about your background and your role, and also about Zand. You know, what is Zand? Maybe even more broadly, what is a digital bank? So let's maybe start with that.
Right. So just to explain about myself, first, so always define myself as a lawyer, French, who has never worked as a lawyer and never worked in France, right? So I've been all my career in banking, almost by accident. And I did a traditional banker for close to 20 years across Latin America, Asia, US, and now Middle East. And I start getting very involved into digital banking in 2013, when I started the digital bank of DBS. So I launched a bank in India, Indonesia, Vietnam, and now I'm here to launch a new bank in UAE.
Fantastic. So a long history of working in the banking industry. You also mentioned some probably more traditional financial institutions and banks along the way, and now you're shifting to something that is still relatively, new in the world of finance, which is digital banking. So can you tell me more a bit about what defines a digital bank, and maybe Zand as well as a concept?
Yes, so that's a good way to put it, right? So digital bank, you have two things, right? You have digital and you have bank. So that means you have to combine two very different DNA. DNA of banking, which is about compliance with regulation, which is about risk management, trust, and financial expertise. And the DNA of digital, that is very important, is about customer-centricity. You build a product for the client, not for the bank. On the DNA of digital, you better leverage your analytics to be able to provide the best service to client as well, and the best offer. And you use the latest kind of technology. So the combination of the two is what is a digital bank. And one more point I would like to add, if you want to build a digital bank, don't try to build a bank, but build a platform with a banking license. And that will create something we hope very different for client.
Great, that's fantastic, and I like the way you described it, which is don't start with the traditional thinking about how do we build a bank and then apply technology, right? It's sort of you're flipping it around and saying let's start with tech at the core, right? Mm-hmm. With digital platform, at the core, yes, as a platform, and then obviously add the banking capabilities, maybe reimagined also on how we engage with customers. Maybe if I double click a bit more on this, we live in a market that I think has relatively good digital modernization when it comes to banks. Like if I take my experience without disclosing my bank, I have quite a good platform, I think, because maybe I haven't experienced anything else. What's the difference, in your opinion, between like a established traditional bank that applies technology, right? Whether it's apps or online banking or data versus a cloud native, digital born.
So the key difference is that someone who transforms himself versus someone who is born, right? And in a digital bank, because it's born, is native digital, everything is going to be digital. Front, middle, and back. The customer experience, everything is going to be straight through processing, which is extremely difficult to do when you want to transform an existing bank into digital. So you will have as well, from day one, when you build digital bank, you build the analytic platform architecture. And very often, when you have a traditional bank, what does that mean, building a great analytic platform? You have almost to remove, imagine a building, remove it, put the kind of infrastructure and then bring back the building, which is extremely difficult to do, very expensive and take time. And when you are existing bank, you have already a lot of existing businesses that are physical in nature, which are usually generating good revenue. So the urgency of cannibalizing these kind of businesses is not there. So you will have a lot of resistance, even within the bank, to transform. That's the key difference. As well, when you are a digital bank, that means that you have really built a platform that is able to connect with external players very, very easily. So when we go and meet big corporate here, we are digital in nature, so I'm very happy because we bring with us kind of data scientists, we bring with them like engineers, and they really very quickly identify opportunity to create new product for the good of clients. So that's the big difference between the two. And starting a bank with no legacy, meaning no technology legacy, meaning no mindset legacy, no process legacy, is a big advantage.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to hear you describe it, because one thing for us in big tech is, for the past few years, we've been talking about this notion that every business is a software business, every business is a digital business. When you look at data, the pace of hiring of software engineers, data scientists, people in tech roles has been actually higher in some instances than the pace of hiring in big tech firms. So, every industry is hiring. So actually to hear you describe it in a real world context where you're saying, you have these roles now in your organization that go and meet clients that are critical to the nature of the job is really quite interesting. Which brings me to my next question. And I know you waited for the country to have a hyperscale cloud before launching because of many reasons, regulatory and others. What role did the cloud infrastructure play in your journey so far?
So that's very important, and we are very lucky that at the same time we start building the bank. So the advantage of being able to build it on a cloud is a few, right? One is scalability. Is very important. The processing power that we can get, particularly when you have a very strong analytic platform, is really, really important. Also, from a resiliency point of view, right, you are able to, with two data centers which are active between the two, you don't have, the time you need normally to go from one data center to the other, right? It's mirroring real time. And also one very important is that we can replicate the bank, the instance of the bank, because all our applications are on the cloud, all right? All of them, or 90% of them, are Kubernetized. So what does that mean? That means that we can redeploy instance of the bank in a few hours, right? So that's amazing kind of potentials that the cloud is really giving us. And that's why we really believe that it's going to become a big differentiator as well with other banks to be able to have all this available from day one.
Would you think Zand would have been envisioned or would have existed without such a cloud platform available?
It will have been possible, but probably will have take longer. And particularly when we want to scale, right, it will have been more challenging. So it's obviously possible. You can always have a kind of physical data center, but I think if you want to have a digital bank that is able to be a game changer in the digital world, you need to be able to have the same tools as a digital players that you have. So that's obviously an accelerator in making sure we can differentiate ourselves.
You talked about speed of setup. Probably there's elements of security, privacy, and so many other things.
Yes.
I'd love to also maybe double click a bit. Any key technologies or innovations that stood out for you as you built this? Like, did you I'm sure data was a big part of it, AI, security. I'd love to hear from you. Like, were there any pieces as you built this that were key in the cloud platform?
So when you have a digital bank, right, is obviously security is key, right? And cybersecurity is very fundamental. So I think we could find a right kind of solutions that can be implemented into the cloud. Also, data platform is very advanced, and with real-time information that we need, true real time, with ODS platform and so on as well, is supported very well as well on the cloud, right? So that's all these are very two key points. So cybersecurity, data is very important, and again, because our objective is really to be able to replicate the bank and to in other markets. So we really believe that having our solution on the cloud will allow us to do it much faster.
Fantastic.
And other things we are looking at is to make our solution available, like a bank as a service. We are going to really accelerate that once we launch, because we'll have demonstrated the model. Having an existing bank operating, right, is demonstrate that the solution works.
That's really great. I also want to shift gears a bit and talk about the journey that you'd had in the UAE, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts. I mean, ultimately, you are a startup, right? You're a digital bank, and of course, that has a very specific set of requirements, as I would imagine. And at the same time, you are a tech startup, right? How did that feel here in the country? Like, did you feel you had the right ecosystem, the right support, the right, whether it's government partnership or even again the ecosystem at large?
So it's a perfect place to create a digital bank, UAE. And if I compare with Asia, Europe, India, right, the infrastructure, the market infrastructure is very good, at least on the retail side. You can onboard someone with a digital Emirates ID. You can connect. Now you have the Emirates face recognition becoming available. Everything is in place, right, to be able to build a bank. And also the government, right, in the UAE is very supportive of any digital initiative. So if you look at the digital agenda of UAE, it's very aggressive, right? So that's why, in a way, they decided that they need to give license to native digital bank to be able to support the digital transformation of UAE. Also, I see a lot of willingness to enter in a new technology. And I don't know if you have seen, but Dubai has announced like months ago or so that they have created a VARA, which is a virtual asset regulatory authority. I think it's one of the first in the world. And they understand that this is needed to support a lot of new technology coming up. And all the digital assets and private assets that are going to be tokenized need to be regulated. And for that, they created a regulatory authority, which is already in a metaverse on the Sandbox, the head office. We met them already, and I think there is a lot of opportunities into that space. Also, we see a lot of support on startup, Fintech, with what's happening in both ADGM and DIFC. So incubation is there, opportunity is there, and you see a lot of people relocating to UAE to be able to build this, right?
That's great. Maybe shifting gears a little bit to what you touched on around some of the new virtual assets. I think this, I'm personally not very well acquainted in this space, but there's a lot of activity, right? Whether it's what's being coined as Web3, which is the intersection of crypto and NFTs and the different artifacts we have there. Obviously, the underlying technology with blockchain and this whole notion of decentralized finance. Like, I'd love your view on this. Obviously, it's quite an interesting time right now if you're monitoring what's going on. But I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. So this one is particularly these days a very controversial subject, right? So. But I'm very kind of optimistic about all this, right? So what I believe the bank can be, it can be a gateway between fiat currency and cryptocurrency. right? So when you want to convert your fiat into crypto, then obviously we are not going to do it ourselves, but we can connect. And when you want to bring back your crypto into fiat, right, currency, how you could do the screening of the crypto, where the crypto has been going. If it has been remaining within approved exchange, you can convert it back, and so on. But there is need a gatekeeper for this. And also I really believe there is a need to establish gatekeeper or more on the corporate side between centralized finance and decentralized finance. There is a lot of great initiative happening on the decentralized finance. A lot of product can be offered through decentralized organization, but what needs to be brought into that is really simplification of the process, because it's extremely complex right now if you want to buy a digital token, right? So you need to open your whatever MetaMask account, move it from Ethereum to Polygons, and do a KYC on Tokeny, and then go into an exchange on whatever exchange. So that needs to be simplified, because clients are not going to go for that. Even the product is not the crypto; it's the real securities tokenized, right? And the other aspect, and how you bring trust in this kind of decentralized finance network. And I believe that being able to manage risk better, obviously, we'll go into that space slowly with support from regulators. It can add a lot of very good practice into this domain, because at the end of the day, the technology is very good, but you really need to add some kind of trust and simplification into it.
Fascinating. I thought I understood a bit of the banking lingo in that space, but what you described is next level. So it's great. It's great. There's a lot of concepts to unpack and understand, and I think it's still a journey that everybody's going through. But it's great to see that this is something that's also on your mind as you think of the technology side of it, but also the applicability side of it, which is great. So as a leader in the industry and in the market, I'd love to hear if you have any tips, recommendations, thoughts to offer maybe somebody else who's listening that may be thinking, not necessarily in banking, in other businesses, to say, how can I apply? And I know you were digitally born, but not everybody can go through that journey. I'm curious, do you have any recommendations, some of the challenges also that you faced? I'd love to hear your thoughts for somebody else that may be listening.
Yeah.
And,
so Ihsan, you're very kind to me when you say I'm digitally born, because I'm definitely not digitally born. But what I would say, I think the very important part is really when you go into digital, right? I always say there are a few things that are really important. One is curiosity, right? So you need to be always kind of your brain open to look and try new things. And everything I learn in digital is because I experimented myself, right? The metaverse, I'm on the metaverse the last 3-4 years. Why I'm on the metaverse? Because I push myself to try to understand what this is all about, right? Then a second characteristic is be very optimistic and positive, because it's very difficult sometimes, and you will have always many reasons not to do it, and you need to keep seeing the positivity things and the improvement you can do going forward. And the last point I would say to anybody, it's applied in every area, is a lot of resilience is needed, because it's difficult. It's new territory, right? So you need extremely have a lot of resilience. So curiosity, positivity, resilience, I think is three things are important. And the last point is obviously try to do it and have fun, right? In this kind of journey, right? So that's a few points I would say.
Love it. No, fantastic points, Olivier. What's next for you? What's next for you and Zand?
So next for us is ready to launch a bank. So it's coming very, very soon. And really to be able to expand and create a fantastic experience to clients. At the end of the day, we are doing it to add value to clients, and hopefully they will find the value in us.
That's really fascinating. I wish you and the team great success. I can't wait to see the launch, see what you're doing. Hopefully it will be a fantastic story and success. I really, really enjoyed the conversation. I learned a lot joining me on this podcast, and I hope to host you in future episodes.
Thank you, Ihsan. It was a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.